Hi there, welcome to the show. As most of you already know, I'm Matt, and this is...
Scanley Scanner here!
Really?
Yeah, that's my name.
Parents weren't very creative, were they? Anyways, we're not here to talk about Scanley's name, no matter how funny it is, or unfunny. We're here to talk about something in your Scanning Negatives and Slides book, which you got in class, from Chapter 8.
That's right! Today we're going to talk about unsharp masking, curves, LCH editor, and analog gain!
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's jump right in.
Okay!
Have you ever noticed sometimes whenever you scan an image that it appears to be a little soft?
Well, I sure have.
Well, there's something you can do about that, and that method is called unsharp masking.
Oh, unsharp masking occurs by increasing the contrast along the edges inside the image, right?
You're absolutely correct. There are certain parameters in unsharp masking. They're amount, threshold, and radius.
Before we explain what each one does, the book says that unsharp masking belongs in post-production.
That's right, Scanley. You can do this while you're scanning, but it's recommended to save it to the end of the workflow.
Well, so let's take a closer look at some of the parameters of unsharp masking. Let's start with amount.
The amount slider determines how much edge contrast will be increased.
Well, so what you're saying is that the increase in contrast creates the impression of greater sharpness?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, what about radius?
Radius determines how many adjacent pixels are used in the sharpening process. The bigger the radius, the more chance there is of unwanted halos.
Oh, can I talk about the last part of unsharp masking?
Well, if you feel absolutely confident in your abilities, then go right ahead.
I do! Okay, threshold. This defines the minimum level difference between the adjacent pixels at which a pixel is considered part of an edge and sharpening kicks in. Also, setting a high threshold can exclude areas with low contrast.
A good example would be sharpening the eyelashes without losing texture from the skin around the eyes.
Well, it looks like that covers unsharp masking. But now, can we move on to curves?
What kind of curves?
How about your mom's curves?
Be sure not to buy the scanner that talks back to you. Curves is somewhat similar to the color balance palette, but more powerful, and it's also more demanding.
Can the color channels be corrected individually or combined with the RGB channel?
You can do both, actually.
Oh, wow!
Now, don't get this confused with the curves in Photoshop, because Photoshop curves does not use a histogram, and also levels and curves in Photoshop are two completely different tools.
As for those unfamiliar with a histogram, it's a box with a white background and black mountain-shaped levels. It helps assess the effect curve correction has on the distribution of tones and the overall image.
Here's what a histogram looks like. Doesn't look like much, does it? Well, if you want to learn a little bit more about this tool, go to pages 132 and 133 in your book.
Now, the LCH editor performs image corrections according to the concept of the LCH color model. You can adjust lightness, color saturation, and color tone separately.
Photographers might want to listen up because the LCH editor is a powerful tool for optimizing images.
He's right, you know. You can change the lightness, which allows adjustment to the brightness of the entire image.
If you're a little bit more curious about what the saturation does, on page 136 in your book, there's a great example.
Changing the hue is a way to change the color of an image. Or if you get deeper into it, you can change the color of a certain part of an image.
Take, for example, this picture. This picture has had nothing done to it. It was just a straight picture from a digital camera. Now, let's say you wanted to take the red and make it, let's say, blue. Well, your hue can change that, just like this. Let's say if you wanted to take that red and make it, I don't know, green. You can do it. Or you can do all three, the RGB colors, and make it look something like this. It's a great tool to use. But, as great of a tool as that is, it's time to get to the last thing, which is analog gain.
Most analog gain is usually taken care of automatically by the scanning program, as a part of exposure control.
Film at normal exposure, this setting is not really necessary, and it can be left at the default settings.
There are some cautions to analog gain. One is try to make sure your monitor is calibrated properly.
You're right, Scanley. Oftentimes an image can appear too dark on an uncalibrated monitor. Remember in the class when the man came in and showed us how to calibrate our monitors?
Yeah.
You weren't there.
You asked me if I remember.
I didn't ask you, I asked them.
Sorry.
Anyways, a poor analog gain cannot be fixed later in Photoshop, so please be very careful dealing with analog gain.
Also, a negative side to using analog gain is increased image noise.
The simplest way to work with analog gain is to use the master slider, since it works with all three color channels.
And if your picture is overexposed, then lower the analog gain. It may help save a picture.
Well, Scanley, looks like we covered a good little bit today.
We sure did. Now I gotta get home to Mrs. Scanner. Ever since her bulb started dimming, she's been on a short fuse.
I understand. Well, until next time, take care.
Bye.